Hey there, Shatterproof family. I'm Scott Reib, America's Legal Coach, and your host for the day. Welcome to another episode of the Shatterproof Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, I have something special for you. I recently had the privilege of speaking at Daniel Gomez's Millionaire Mind Bootcamp, and the session was packed with powerful insights about building a shatterproof business. And so we're going to roll that recording in just a moment, so you get ready to take some notes on some actionable tips and protecting your brand, structuring your business, and leaving a lasting legacy. Without further ado, let's jump right into the presentation.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, your next speaker for the day came all the way from the big city of Dallas, Texas to pour into you. Let's get a standing ovation to Mr. Scott Reib. Woo! Let's go!
Get your damn hands up. Get your damn hands up. Get your damn hands up.
Let's go. Let's go.
This has been a fantastic 2 days, and it is a pleasure to be on the stage. Daniel, thank you for having me. I am Scott Reib. I am America's Legal Coach. I am a lawyer, but I am not your lawyer. All right? So I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks today that you can take and run past your lawyer before you implement them. But I want to go over 3 what I call power moves today that you can use to protect this wealth that we have. Everybody in?
Yes.
All right. Make sure it's working. There we go. Whenever I come to something like this, I always want to know who is this guy or girl and why am I listening to him, right? And so that's me with my family. It's my beautiful wife, Bibi. We've been married 34 years. On her left is Luke. He's 22. He's about to get engaged, but don't tell anybody. And that's Jake, 25 on my right, and his beautiful wife, Marissa. They've been married almost 4 years. And everyone in that picture is involved in what I do in some way or another. Jake does a lot of my social media. Luke's the podcast producer. Marissa's done a lot of photography for me over the years. And then Bibi, my wife, is the one that supports me and lets me come do all this fun stuff. As you can tell by the white beard, I've been doing this a while. In 1991, I got married. Can't see the screen, so you gotta help me. In 96? Okay, in 96, I graduated from the University of Oklahoma College of Law with a law degree and took off on this law journey. In 2003, I became a member of the $1 Million Roundtable for settling lawsuits that were worth several $1 million, multiple times. Because at that point in my career, I was doing catastrophic injury work. In 2005, I had a problem in a partnership and had to leave. The thing that always breaks up partnerships is money, if you didn't know that. Marriages and partnerships, they all break up over money. And so I started my own law firm, the Reib firm, in 2005. And our motto was, if you have money, we'll take it. That was my niche. My first question, do you have any money? And then in 2012, I changed my model, and we talked about that a little bit yesterday. And around that time, 2014, I met my friend and brother, Tom Ziegler, the proud son of Zig Ziglar, and became the official small business lawyer for the Ziegler Company. And around that time, everything started changing, right? They started putting me on stages in front of people like you to share what I learned in my journey. I then became a certified legacy coach with Ziegler Company, where I can teach Zig's legacy. In 2019, we formed Next Level Legal Coaching. And that's a company that is used to teach other lawyers how to follow my model. Jake got married. And it's been a big year. We launched the book, The Shatterproof Entrepreneur, that should be in front of each of you as my gift. We started Shatterproof Solutions, my coaching company, and we launched the podcast, The Shatterproof Entrepreneur, with the help of Daniel Gomez. Yeah. So I'm pretty easy to find if you type in the word Shatterproof. It's not real hard to find me. There's two different models of law. There's the traditional model that if you've ever hired a lawyer, anyone ever hired a lawyer? Yeah. You walk in, they ask you for a bunch of money, and then they bill you by the minute. And if you haven't heard yet, that model's broken. A lot of lawyers haven't heard it either, but it is. There's a problem with that model. You're not on the same side. Because if the lawyer can make as much money as they want by spending as much time as they want on your project, then there's this inherent conflict, because you're going to be sitting on your side of the equation thinking, did that really take them that long? Did they really need to do that? And in 2012, I knew I had to flip that equation. I wanted to be on the same side as my clients, so they would come to me with things as they were arising in their business instead of after their house was on fire. Right? I like to say having the right information at the right time is the difference between success and failure. For example, if Liz were to drive by my house today and see smoke coming out of my roof and call me and say, hey Scott, there's smoke coming out of your roof, is everything okay? And I said, I don't know, I'm going to check. We call the fire department, they saved my house and my family. If the same thing happens and Liz drives by my house and sees smoke coming out of my roof, goes on home, calls me the next day and said, hey Scott, I was by your house, saw smoke coming out of your roof, everything work out all right? The right information at the right time is often the difference between success and failure. And if you wait to call professionals until you're in trouble, it's often too late, or it's going to cost you a whole lot more money than it would have if you'd gone before. And so we are what we call proactive. We're taking a proactive approach, not just with law, but the Shatterproof approach is that we're going to be proactive with our business, and we're going to be seeking out the professionals, the key advisors that we need to take us to the next level to become the millionaires that we're meant to be. It's a bend, don't break mentality. My mission is to help small business owners just like you grow, scale, and protect your business. And here is why. I believe, deep down inside, I believe this, that your business is the best, bar none, vehicle to achieve your life goals and dreams. Does anyone else believe that? Yes. Do you really believe that? Yes. Because you've got to really believe it for it to work. If you don't believe it, then you'll be a self-employed person for a long time with a crazy boss. But if you want to have a real business, if you want to listen to Daniel, if you want to get some coaching, build systems, build your business on systems and good people but not talent, then you can achieve your life goals and dreams. Got some good news. 80% of modern American millionaires, small business. 60% of them are in small business. 20 million of American millionaires are owners of small business. Is that encouraging? Yeah. 2 million new millionaires in the U.S. added from 2019 to 2020. 2 million. So, I mean, Daniel's up here telling us that we can become this. I want you to understand, you really can. He's not up here selling you a bill of goods. It's possible. Not because I say it, because the statistics say it's happening everywhere. It might as well be us. There's some bad news. Sorry, I'm the lawyer, so I give bad news every once in a while. Over 100 million cases filed in the U.S. every year. 60% involve contract cases. Contract cases are that's what's going to affect you guys. A lot of lawyers, if you come to things like this, are going to try to scare you and say it's all, these personal injury lawsuits are going to take you under. It could happen. But the big thing you've got to worry about are contract disputes, employment disputes, which are also contract. Because if you're in business, you're either doing contracts or you're going to not last in business. Because every transaction, sale you make is a contract. Every time you hire someone, there's a contract of sorts. Every time you bring a vendor on, you lease a property, contracts. So there's exposure and risk that's going to be competing with you to try to get to that 7 figures. I learned a long time ago that defense wins championships. Daniel can teach you all kinds of offensive moves on how to grow your business. I can too. Most of what I do is defense because it's so important. That's my first soccer team back in 2003. That's Jake with his hand on my shoulder when he was 3 years old. They were a scoring machine. As long as I had the arrow, they would score for us. If I didn't have that arrow, they'd still score. It's not for us. My mentor Zig says you have to plan to win, prepare to win, and maybe most important, expect to win. Right? So in business, I need you all to join me today, and we're going to have a game plan for how to win. I'm going to teach you 3 power moves that will help you win at business so that when you have the success that we believe we're going to have, you can keep it. Okay? Shatterproofing is what I do. Right? So we have a business inside this shield. To explain it, I'm going to show you a video, I hope.
When you're driving, you should feel pretty safe. After all, you're surrounded by a metal cage that's been designed to protect you. But what about the glass? The glass in your car is different. Where does it come from? Why is it different than this glass? Let's break some windows. In order to understand the special glass that makes up your car, first, we need to understand regular glass. Now, you probably know that glass is a clear, solid thing that comes from sand. But if you don't, glass is a clear, solid thing that comes from sand. So how are the windows in your car different? Well, first, let's talk about the windshield. Modern windshields are so strong that they can withstand over 2,000 pounds of force. They even play a role in the structural rigidity of your car. In 1903, a French chemist accidentally dropped a beaker that was covered in nitrate plastic. When it hit the ground, it broke, but it didn't shatter into pieces. And safety glass was born. If you've ever broken a windshield or seen one break in the movies, you'll notice that it shatters but won't go anywhere. The glass in your windshield is actually 2 panes of glass. It's got a layer of glass, layer of vinyl, and another layer of glass. The layer of vinyl makes sure that everything sticks together. It doesn't shatter all over the place and stick in your neck and kill you. We're gonna get fired.
Okay, so windshields in our cars, our business vehicle, they serve 2 purposes, just 2. One is visibility, and the second is protection. So we're working on the protection side today. If you want to know your Shatterproof score, see how you measure up right now, because the first thing you have to do before you make a change to your business or your life is assess where am I now. Then we can make some decisions to move forward. So if you'd like to do that, grab that QR code. It'll pull it up on your phone. You can do that later. Like really, grab that QR code and do it now. I wasn't kidding. It's not coming back. Ready? All right. So how to build a legal fortress, right? Because we want to have this fortress that's impenetrable to that 120 million lawsuits that are filed every year. Well, there's 3 power moves. 1, you have to establish a Shatterproof brand identity. Daniel talked a little about this yesterday. That wasn't planned. It worked out great. 2, a Shatterproof business structure. And 3, you have to have a Shatterproof legacy plan. Because we want to build businesses that leave a legacy. It's not just about us, it's about what comes later. Okay, so that's the 3 things we're going to cover. Number 1, safeguarding or protecting your brand identity. To do that, you have to know what a brand is. In the Old West, everyone branded their cattle. Why did they brand their cattle? They wanted to be able to identify their herd. So in fact, it was open range, right? Your cows could just roam anywhere they wanted to. And if they got in someone else's herd, you could go over and look at that. That one's got my mark. That one's got my mark. Separate them. They're yours. If a cow didn't have the mark, the brand, they were called a maverick, and they could be taken by anyone. If your business isn't branded correctly from a legal standpoint, it's a maverick. Someone else can claim it. Like Daniel, I can't remember what idea he said yesterday on the stage. He said, don't trademark that, that's mine. It's a maverick idea until it's protected. I don't want your businesses to be mavericks. Because your branding is the sum of everything you stick out in the world, right? It's what everyone thinks about you when you're not looking. A shatterproof formula for branding is, well, number one, know thyself. Number two, brand consistency. And three is brand protection. If you have those three things, you'll have a shatterproof brand. Knowing thyself can be the hardest one. Because in our businesses, it's not just a business brand, it's a personal brand. And if your business brand's in conflict with who you are, it's not going to work. You may think it's working, but people know. There's something off. It's incongruent. It doesn't fit. And you lose business. Okay? Show you another video real quick. This video clip is from the Adjustment Bureau. It's kind of an obscure movie. I really liked it. But Matt Damon is running for the Senate. He's been caught with his pants down and is bowing out of the race. And this is his speech.
You know, in 1998, I did a cover story for GQ. The title was Youngest Congressman Ever. And since then, every story has tried to explain how I got here so fast. And the word that people kept using was authentic. But here's the problem. This isn't even my tie. This tie was selected for me by a group of specialists in Tenafly, New Jersey, who chose it over 56 other ties we tested. In fact, our data suggests that I have to stick to either a tie that is red or a tie that is blue. A yellow tie made it look as if I was taking my situation lightly, and I may in fact pull my pants down again at any moment. A silver tie meant that I'd forgotten my roots. My shoes, you know, shiny shoes, we associate with high-priced lawyers and bankers. If you want to get a working man's vote, you need to scuff up your shoes a little bit, but you can't scuff them up so much that you alienate the lawyers and the bankers, because you need them to pay for the specialists back in Tenafly. So what is the proper scuffing amount? Do you know we actually paid a consultant $7,300? Was it $7,300, Charlie? Mm-hmm. $7,300 for a consultant to tell us that this is the perfect amount of stuffing.
Authenticity. 88% of consumers say authenticity is important when deciding what brands they like and support. I thought it was about pretty colors and pretty logos and slogans. 88%. So be authentic. Anyone recognize this brand? Tiffany's. Yeah, all the ladies probably recognize it. If I did my packaging and my themes around the Tiffany's brand, which is a very sharp, successful brand, it wouldn't fit. It'd be unauthentic. It'd look good, but that's not me. If I were to market myself as a Christian business owner,
and never go to church, never read my Bible, and cuss like a sailor, it'd be inauthentic. People will figure it out. So be authentic. Brand consistency. Do we know what brand consistency is going to be? Having a standard look and feel to everything you do, right? So Tiffany's, it's known. That box is known. That colors are known. The look, if you see it, you know what it is. No matter where you are, it's recognizable because they are so consistent with everything they do. And no matter how small your business is now, you need to treat it as if it's going to be a national brand. You need to be consistent with your colors, your images, your fonts, your messaging, because it matters. Right? Logos, colors, typography, design elements. Because if you're, anyone here a one-man show? I was there. Yeah. Okay, so if you're a one-man company, then you're using vendors to do things, right? I still do. I hired someone on Fiverr to do something yesterday. And when I do that, I can send them my brand guide that gives them my fonts, my colors, my logos, all the stuff they need to be able to create my stuff in a way that's consistent with all the other things that have already been created. Because otherwise, you might get a really quality project that looks really good, but it doesn't match your brand. It's not consistent. And it could be slightly off, right? All these colors on my screen have numbers. There's a pound sign, then an F, and then a little B, and then I don't know them, but they're on the guide on purpose because if you don't use the right number, the shade's a little bit off. And I personally probably wouldn't notice, but someone would. It needs to be consistent. Like on the cover of my slideshow matches the cover of my book that's on your desk table. It's a different shot, but it's the same photo shoot. It matches, it's consistent. The colors match the picture. I wore the blue suit to be consistent. And so as you grow and become a two-man show, a three-man show, you have to have systems for doing this stuff. That means you have to have everything in folders and common places where they can find them with guides to follow. Otherwise, you start seeing your logo in different colors. They change the fonts a little bit. They might change the shape of it. And suddenly you have all these different looks out there and no one knows who you are anymore. It just creeps that way. So as the leader of your organization, you're in charge. You're the guard of the brand. Is it consistent? Be checking that work. Make sure everyone knows the importance. Why? 33% increase in revenue. That's enough reason for me to do it. If it can make you more money, will you do it? Yeah. Okay. Brand protection. To protect a brand, you have to take some steps. Everything you create in this world of business has protection built in. We have this common law rights to copyright protection, which is if you write a song, a book, if you do a video, it's protected by common law copyright law. If we create a brand, a logo, a company name, or a logo, it can be copyrighted or it can be trademarked. And you have this common trademark protection. There's a problem with it, is that it doesn't give you all the rights that you need. To get all the rights that you need, you have to register these things with the federal government. They're always in our business. But if you register your brand trademark, your company name, and your logo, then you can not only stop someone from using it, you can get the profit they've taken from you by using your brand, and your attorney's fees paid, maybe most importantly. So generally people will stop when you tell them to because you've got the registered brand. So kind of the important things on trademark are you first to use it, and then have you registered it? And I want to focus on trademarks. If you don't, it can lead to catastrophic problems. Not little problems, catastrophic, right? So you can lose your whole brand. Every quarter, someone calls me, emails me. A lot of coaches will say, hey, I've got a client that's got this problem. They got this letter in the mail that says they have to rebrand. They're not serious, right? Yeah, they're serious. And then you've got 30 days to completely come up with a new company name that is now trademarkable because now you're aware. So we've gone through hundreds of names with single clients to find the one that resonates with them, is authentic with what they want to do, and is trademarkable. Because here's what happens if you don't do that. You'll climb this ladder to success, and you'll get to the top. And it's lean on someone else's building. This stuff is important. Because without the trademark, you can have expensive legal battles. You can have, and maybe most important, maybe you never get a cease and desist letter, maybe you get to cruise. But there's market confusion and you don't even know it. Because you haven't taken the time to make sure you can dominate your brand. Millionaires don't go halfway, they go all the way. And they're excellent. Now, anything worth doing well is worth doing poorly at first, right? We can crawl, walk, and run. But we have to start crawling, walking, and running with the legal side of your businesses. Because if you're not, the millionaire status will not last. Someone will take it from you. And you don't want to be over something as simple as you didn't protect your brand. Oh yeah, that's it. There's a whole list of 7 steps there for you to trademark your brand, and you're welcome to do it. Once you file your application, if you've gone through the searches and the creating your description and figuring out what class you fit in, and you get to the 6th step and it's on file, it takes about 9 months for an examiner to be assigned to it, and then they start asking questions, denying the mark for weird reasons, then you have to respond, and if you don't respond correctly, you lose your mark. You can do all that yourself. I just wouldn't. I don't drill my own teeth. I don't do my own surgery, although I'm sure I could read the book and figure it out. Find a professional to help you protect it, okay? Second move, build a solid foundation. The foundation of a company, part of it at least, is the entity, the enterprise structure, right? And we're talking about, is it a corporation? Is it an LLC? Is it a partnership? What is the legal structure of your business? I'm not going to ask for anyone to raise hands, but my guess is there's someone sitting in the room today that is in business as a sole proprietor. If you are a sole proprietor, you've probably filed an assumed name or a DBA in your local area saying that I'm doing business, Scott Reib doing business as the Shatterproof lawyer. But I haven't taken the time to actually form a business. That's still me. I just have this fake name. It's called a fictitious name. And for branding purposes, that's fine. But if you're a sole proprietor, everything you do is you. So everything you do for business, it's you. So if you get into a legal battle in your business, all your assets are at risk. So the profit you've made and taken home and bought Lamborghinis, the Lamborghini's at risk because you are the business. And your business is exposed to your personal liability because you are the business. Right? And if anyone wants a copy of this slide deck so we can go in depth in these points, they're all there. And I would be more than happy to share it with you. But there's pros and cons to it, right? It's easy to set up. It's very fast. I will tell you that in business, the things that are really easy and fast usually don't pay off. There's no shortcut. And with asset protection, simplicity doesn't usually work. Right, so corporations, one of the oldest forms of business. It's a very strong entity. Right, it gives you limited liability, so you're not, as a shareholder, responsible for the liabilities of the company. That's good news. It's got access to capital. A lot of people that are trying to bring on venture capital investments will use the corporation, or if they have dreams of going public. Cons, double taxation. The corporation actually pays, it has a tax return and it pays tax. And then you make money as the owner and then you pay tax. Double taxation. Now, really smart tax advisors sometimes will recommend a C Corp because there's some ways they can make that advantageous to you. I only play a tax lawyer on TV, so I can't help you there. All right, LLC is the place to be, in my personal opinion, for most situations. A limited liability company, to explain it the best, is it's a kind of a hybrid of a partnership. Everyone kind of knows that a partnership is when a couple people come together, we're going to do a business together. You might have a formal agreement on how we're going to split profits and what works, who's going to do what work. Well, the LLC can operate that way, but it gives you the protection of a corporation, because a partnership is basically just two sole proprietors coming together. But with the LLC, you've got this limited liability protection. You can have unlimited members. I mean, as many as you could possibly dream of. You can set it up with multiple classes of members. So you can have a founding member class, then you can have the second group, then you can have maybe a profits only. You can do all kinds of things. And our tax people love it because it's what we call a check-the-box entity. It can be taxed as sole proprietorship, where it comes straight through to your 1040 if they think that makes sense. It can make an S Corp election, which is a provision in the tax code, to where you then pay yourself a salary, withhold taxes, and then you pay yourself basically dividends or distributions that aren't subject to the payroll taxes. And it can be very advantageous. Ask Liz, ask Albert. It can be a very good way to do business. It can also be taxed as a C Corp. So it's very flexible. It doesn't have to follow the same formalities that corporations do. Corporations you have to have directors and shareholders. They're all supposed to meet. Then you have to have minutes of the meetings. It's a pain. You can do it. It's a pain. In the LLC, it's not required. I still think it's a recommended practice. I mean, why not take a trip and have an annual meeting and take some notes and write it off? But if you don't do it, it's not going to be a reason that your LLC falls apart and you lose your liability shield. With the corporation, you're much more at risk for that. All right, so the whole point of these entities is to have this shield around you. So if you get the slide deck from me, you'll get this chart, which will help you make your decisions on which entity is right for you. All right, and very few businesses should just have one entity. Almost everyone should have multiple entities that do different things, because you don't want to have everything doing the same one. So let's talk about the 3 pillars of Shatterproof business structure. So we know what entities there are. You know, I like the LLC. Here's how you want to use them. You want to have bidirectional protection. And I hear very few lawyers talking about this. Most people will sell you an LLC to protect you from your business. Okay, that's a great thing. But you have inside and outside liability. All right, so inside, we're signing client contracts, vendor contracts, things that the business should be responsible for. But we don't want to be responsible for. And then you have outside liability, and this is the one that no one plans for. We drive around in these huge vehicles, going 85 miles per hour or 100 miles per hour, if no one's looking. And I mean, these machines, if they hit something, it's going to cause problems. If you hit a brain surgeon in the prime of their life, you're going to have and kill them or paralyze them. You're going to create this $10 million liability. Let's just say you were messing with your phone and you were negligent. It was totally your fault. So you get sued and lose. They get a $10 million judgment against you personally, and you've built this really elaborate business structure because you've followed the Shatterproof Entrepreneur book, and you followed my podcast, and you listened to everything I've said, and you have this great thing. But at the top of your structure is not a strong company. You haven't used an LLC in Wyoming, Nevada, Delaware, New Mexico, and you don't have these really strong charging order laws, here's what happens. They come straight through that top LLC. Now they can vote as a member, and they liquidate all the assets of all the things that we've built underneath. If you form it in one of those states, Wyoming, Nevada, Delaware, New Mexico, then you have this really strong protection. They get this cool thing called a charging order that says they're entitled to profit as it's distributed. We can find lots and lots of ways to not distribute profit and starve them out. But you have to have this in place now. It's too late once you've created the liability event. Asset protection planning has to be done before the liability event occurs. And the first thing you want to do, in my humble opinion, is make sure it's playing for both sides. Second is you want anonymity. If someone does an asset report on you, we want it to come up with you owning nothing. Liz and I talked last night, and we both got some shared experience in the PI world. And one of the first things that I used to do when I was in that world was you'd run a report that would tell you what insurance they had. We always hoped it was a commercial policy, and if it wasn't, that it had really high limits. Because then we knew there was a way to get paid, because personal injury attorneys work on a percentage, a contingency fee. If there wasn't enough insurance, then we went to the asset report. And back in the day, you'd have an investigator run this report, and you get this report showing you all the things they owned. And if there were enough assets that weren't protected by law that you could actually take, then we would consider taking the case. So if you don't want to be a target, then you want to use anonymity wherever you can to shield you. And so that's using multiple entities. That's not using your name on everything. That's forming these entities in states, again, like Wyoming, Nevada, New Mexico, even Texas is good at this, that they don't publish who the members are. So that yes?
A quick question. With the Corporate Transparency Act, is that going to affect this?
Yeah. Starting in January, there's a new act that came into place where if you own an LLC corporation, you have to report to the federal government not only who the beneficial owner is, who the actual owner is, but who the managers are and who have the controlling interests. And so the federal government will now know by the end of this year who owns every LLC or corporation in the country. At this point, that database is only for government use, and no one else would have access to it. But worst case scenario, suddenly that is available to personal injury lawyers, and they know every entity you own. There's a lot of fights going on right now in courts about this law, and hopefully they'll get it undone. But right now, they're wanting to know everything that we're doing.
So it's only accessible to FinCEN?
Right now, it's only access through FinCEN, which is the same group that tracks all the deposits you make in the bank. And that's not available. So, I mean, I think right now we're probably reasonably safe. But if you haven't looked into that, get with your accountant, tax person, and make sure you're taking care of that. Great question, Liz. All right. Anonymity, really important. Got it? Silos. As you're driving down the countryside, and I was doing this 2 weeks ago, driving a moving truck with my son, going through New Mexico, and you go through these farms, and you see these silos. What's in the silos? Grain. And usually there's different types of grain in each silo. I'm not a farmer. I have family that were farmers, and they never mixed the grain. Why is that? They don't like each other. It would ruin the marketability of the grain if you mixed them up. If you mix corn and barley, they're useless. And with your businesses, it's the same way. So if you're doing some unique things, like I have my law firm, the Reib Firm PLLC, and then I have Shatterproof Solutions. The law firm does the law stuff. Shatterproof Solutions does coaching, mastermind, speaking. They're separate. So if I create a liability while I'm on the stage, it's not going to affect my law firm, and vice versa. because they're siloed. You shouldn't have hard assets in an operating company. They should be their own silo. So I don't think I've run anyone here that's in the construction business, but I have a lot of clients that do that. And so they have heavy equipment they're big assets that if they don't have those, they can't make money. And so you put those in their own LLC, and then they lease the equipment to their various companies. If there's a liability event here, we can bankrupt this company, start a new company, use the same equipment, we're back in business. If it's all in the company that gets sued, then you can't do anything with that equipment. And it's not just equipment, and this kind of mixes two of our points here. I had a friend come in, gosh, it's been 15 years ago now probably. He'd been sued. He came in and he was a remodeler. I'd used him before, did a great job. It was family business, father and son, and they'd been sued. 20 plus years in business, not even a Better Business Bureau report. I mean, no problems. They finally ran into the one customer they couldn't make happy. If you haven't run into that person in your business yet, you will. Everyone does. You cannot make everyone happy all the time. Well, they ran into them, and this guy sued them. And it was about a $100,000 lawsuit, so not huge, but big enough that you got to worry about it. Well, here's the problem. My first question always is, well, when did you incorporate your business? Deer in the headlights look. We don't have a corporation. Oh, when did you form your LLC? We don't have an LLC. We just have a DBA that we filed with the county. Okay, well, what assets do you have? Well, we have 13 rental houses. Are those in LLCs? No. So everything they owned was now subject to this lawsuit, which meant they couldn't refinance it, and this was in 2008. So they have all these houses. They had equity in them. They kind of needed to harvest it. They couldn't sell. They couldn't refinance. They were stuck. And it was a winnable lawsuit. I could have won the suit. They had to settle. So they had to get out of it, so they had the flexibility to keep running their rental businesses. All because they didn't have silos. Their rental business should have been nowhere close, no connection to their construction business. But you have to do the planning up front. Third move. This is really important to me, because we want to leave an unbreakable business legacy. Okay? I do not have that memorized. So, an unbreakable business legacy is a business designed to last and thrive for what? Generations. Ensuring your hard work and vision continue to flourish and secure a prosperous future for your family. Anyone want to have that? Unbreakable business legacy? Yeah, I do. Here's why. 51% of Americans aged 55 to 64 lack wills. They do not have a last will and testament. 62% of those are aged 45 to 54 haven't drafted wills. Thank you. Nope. I'm not going to make you raise your hand and tell me whether you've done this or not. Statistics say half of you haven't. But if you don't have a will, then your business is going to go through probate court. Nothing good happens in probate court. Your relatives have to go in and testify about you dying to get access to your business. It's the worst possible thing to have to do. With a proper plan, they don't have to. All right, so the key elements are to have an estate plan and an succession plan. Estate planning is the will, a trust, and making sure you got a plan for incapacity and death. There's two things. There's two ways you're going out, ladies and gentlemen. You're either going to be incapacitated and then die, or you're just going to die. I hate to break it to you. So we might as well plan for it. Let's skip through a little bit. Anyone ever heard of a trust? Yeah, it's something you think rich people do, right? And we're trying to become rich people. So trust is simply an agreement to hold assets. That's all it is. Look at it as a box. There's two kinds of boxes, two kinds of trusts. There's a trust with the lid open, and that's a living, revocable trust. And there's a trust with the lid closed, and that's an irrevocable trust. I want you guys to talk to your advisors about setting up a living, revocable trust that owns everything you have, so that you have a trustee that's in charge of stuff if you're incapacitated or die. Okay? Moving forward. Succession planning is making sure that we know who the next line of leaders will be for your business, who's going to buy it if something happens to you. If it's a key employee, it could be a vendor, it could be a customer. Have some of these conversations about who would be interested in that and get some stuff documented so that there's an agreement in place on how that will happen so your family doesn't have to figure it out when you're no longer available. It helps with morale if you have a team, and you've either got to build up a team or give up the dream, because now your team knows you have a plan for them. Otherwise, they're just floating around wondering what's going to happen next. We'll skip through just a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, DIY is definitely possible with the legal world. Right? It's everywhere you go. There's tons of websites where you can get legal information, legal documents. Be careful. It's a minefield. Thank you very much for your attention today. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this group and to be able to share with you guys my vision for what your businesses could look like. Thank you.
Wow. What a fantastic session. I hope you got a ton of value out of that presentation from the Millionaire Mind Bootcamp. Remember, implementing these strategies can be the difference between just surviving in business and truly thriving. If you want to take the next step in building a shatterproof business, be sure to check out the resources in the show notes. And as always, thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe and share this episode with someone who needs it. Until then, stay shatterproof. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. While I'm your host, Scott Reib, and a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer, and this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship. The views expressed by my guests are their own and not mine, and they may not even reflect the opinion of the Shatterproof Entrepreneur podcast. So we strive to provide valuable and accurate content, but we make no representations as to the accuracy, completeness, or suitability of any information to your particular situation, and won't be liable for any errors or omissions for the application of them. Always consult a professional or in the respective area that we've discussed before making any personal or business decisions.